Hi, this is Spiritual Psychic Cynthia Killian again, also known as Psychic Cynthia, and welcome back to your Awakening Your Inner Psychic class video series. And I'm logging on today to make a quick video for you about some of the obstacles you might have to overcome on your path of psychic awakening, because you see, awakening this inner psychic, it's a very different part of the brain and the self than the normal TikTok thinking that we do in the mainstream or in our day-to-day lives. So a lot of times there can be mental obstacles that come up. So much of this is working in your mind to open the potential inside of you and to move beyond limitations. So anyway, today I wanted to talk with you about some of the top obstacles you might encounter on this path and how you might overcome them. Actually, how you might overcome them, just so you know, is simply by acknowledging that these could be present in you and being aware. So awareness really is the cure. It's the key to dealing with some of these obstacles. And basically there's three, well, there might be four, but we'll focus on three today. And those top three obstacles that most students of psychic development encounter, most of us just on our path, are rationalization, doubt, and guilt. Now, the fourth one I sort of alluded to is resistance. That's when you simply don't want to hear or you don't like what you're getting from your inner psychic. But we'll deal with that later, another time in another lesson. For today, the main one I really want to look at is rationalization, because that's such a strong resistance factor for many of us, especially when we first start developing. And what rationalization looks like, if you don't know what I mean by that or what it sounds like, it's well, actually I have a little list here. So, you know, something happens and you see, okay, first of all, you start noticing, right? Because you're doing your noticing practices. And you start paying attention to the street signs around you and to the colors and to the people. You just start being aware and being present. And then, after a while, things start sticking out to you. In other words, you start seeing the psychic signs more and more. And, you know, you start to ask yourself, well, perhaps this has meaning. Is this significant? And this is where rationalization might come in, because it might say some things to you like this. Let me read from my little list here. These are things you might tell yourself that discredit your inner psychic. You might say, it was just a coincidence. Or you might say to yourself, well, I couldn't possibly be psychic. This is just something else. I don't know, not me. Or I don't believe in these kinds of things. How could that happen? Or it didn't really happen that way. Or maybe you get a knowing and it really helps you out, but then later you say, well, anybody would have known that. Well, no, they wouldn't have. Okay? Or it was just a lucky guess. I doubt it. Or this can't be real or true. Or maybe I'm just imagining things. Okay, sometimes maybe you are just imagining things, but sometimes maybe you're not. Maybe it's really there and you need to acknowledge it. This isn't possible. Or it's just coming from my imagination, or this is just wishful thinking. You get the idea? These are some ways that the defense mechanism of rationalization works to undermine your inner psychic. Now, just so we're clear here, rationalization is very useful. I mean, you need your rational mind to think and to add numbers and to get to places on time, for example. But the rational mind shouldn't be allowed to interfere with your psychic development. In other words, the rational mind has its place, but when we're in the realm of the psychic, we're operating in a realm beyond rational. And a lot of times what I see happening, especially when it deals with psychic signs, or, you know, maybe we saw a spirit or we had a visitation or a sign from somebody on the other side, a lot of times what I see happening is what I call irrational rationalization. And what irrational rationalization looks like, dear one, is something incredible happens, or an obvious sign that just has to have meaning. It's so obvious to anyone who would see it, but then your brain starts working to come up with ways that it's not magical or it doesn't have meaning, and it really stretches it. In other words, it stretches it so much it's not even logical to think in that way. For example, I'm sitting out here in my garden, and it's winter, so you don't see many plants right now, and it's kind of cold, but I'm enjoying the sunlight because I like to do winter sunbathing. That'll be another video for another time. But if I suddenly felt a presence brush on my shoulder, I could say, oh, well, it was a bird. Or maybe it was a squirrel. Even if I played this video back and I didn't see anything, I could say, oh, well, it couldn't have been a spirit. It had to be a bird or some other animal, even though I couldn't see it on the video. That's an example of this illogical rationalization. That's not the way you want to be when you're first developing, because your inner psychic is waiting to be reawakened. But it's not going to happen if you keep discrediting and rationalizing these things that happen away. So what I would ask you to do as you're on this journey is to suspend your disbelief for a little while and let your rationalization operate all at once when you're adding numbers or you're trying to get to work on time or whatever. But for now, leave it out of your psychic development, in terms of leave it out of trying to shut down the doors of communication. You don't want that, right? Now, along with rationalization, there is doubt. That is another big obstacle for many of us on the path. We can doubt what we hear, what we see, what we experience. We can doubt our guides. We can doubt ourselves. That's a real big one. And you've got to start believing in you. I believed in all of you enough before I even ever knew you, maybe, to make these videos for you. I believed that you were out there and that you were ready and ripe to awaken. So I believe in you. I'm asking you now to believe in yourself. And by the way, having confidence in yourself as a psychic, as an awakener, it doesn't mean being arrogant or egotistic. Of course, you should always feel free to question if you're not sure. But also, there's this sense of learning to trust yourself, trust your guides. Maybe we should add to the list of obstacles mistrust. Are you a person who just looks at the world with a cynical view and you don't trust? Well, learn to trust your inner psychic. Learn to trust yourself and your guides. And how do you do that? Well, I believe, again, it starts with awareness and just setting the intention in your heart, saying, I will trust, I will open, I will follow my inner psychic, I will listen to it, I will respect it and honor it and hear it, and whenever possible, act upon it. Now, obviously, if you think your intuition is trying to get you to do something that would be harmful to yourself or others, it's not your intuition, okay? I don't know what it is, but it's something else. So it's time now to commit to moving beyond these obstacles. And again, don't worry if you don't know how you're going to do that. Just make the commitment to trust, to believe, to leave behind rationalization and doubt and guilt. Sometimes we have guilt about what we see or feel. Usually we're guilty because somebody told us we should feel that way. And, if you do feel guilty, then you got to ask yourself, is it because you actually did something that you feel is wrong, or you saw something that you feel is wrong, or is it because somebody told you you should feel that way? And if it's just because somebody told you should feel that way, forget about it. Let it go. All right, so in the week or weeks ahead, I want you to begin to pay attention to how these patterns might be operating in yourself. And if you want to, you can write it down a little in your psychic journal. and start to move beyond these obstacles. Start to trust, and hopefully I'll get together some affirmations for you that will help. But I think a good place to start is just by saying, I will trust my inner psychic. I believe my inner psychic. I will honor my inner psychic. I will follow my inner guidance. There you go. Until next time, bright blessings, dear ones.